7 Johnny Carson guests who died in the most mysterious ways. For 30 years, Johnny Carson invited America's biggest stars into our living rooms. His warm smile and easy laugh made viewers feel like they were watching old friends catch up over coffee. But behind some of these seemingly casual conversations lurked darker fates. A surprising number of Carson's guests would later die under circumstances so bizarre and unexplained that they continued to generate speculation decades later. "There's something unsettling about watching these Carson interviews now," revealed a former Tonight Show producer. "You're seeing these vibrant, talented people completely unaware of the strange and sometimes sinister circumstances that would eventually claim their lives. What makes these deaths so haunting is the stark contrast between the controlled, well-lit safety of Carson's stage and the chaotic, often inexplicable circumstances of these guests' final moments. The same celebrities who bantered comfortably under the studio lights would later become crime scenes that continue to baffle investigators. In the next few minutes, we'll explore 7 of Carson's most memorable guests, who later met ends so mysterious they continue to generate headlines and investigations years, sometimes decades, after their deaths. But first, we need to understand the strange case of a woman who appeared on Carson's show more than 100 times, whose comedic chemistry with the host delighted millions, and whose death on a Mexican beach has become one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries.
This is Carter?
Yes,
backstage?
the first mother, of course.
Yeah. What'd you say to
1. Carol Wayne, the mysterious fate of Carson's matinee lady. To millions of Tonight Show viewers in the 1970s and early 1980s, Carol Wayne was immediately recognizable as the buxom, seemingly ditzy matinee lady from Art Fern's Tea Time movie sketches. With her breathless delivery and apparent inability to understand the host's obvious innuendos, Wayne created one of Carson's most beloved recurring characters. Wayne wasn't just another pretty face, explained a comedy historian. She brought genuine comic timing and a specific kind of wide-eyed innocence that perfectly complemented Carson's sleazy Art Fern character. Their chemistry was remarkable. This professional success stood in stark contrast to Wayne's turbulent personal life. Behind her bubbly on-screen persona lurked financial problems, relationship issues, and according to friends, an increasing dependency on alcohol and drugs. These challenges intensified in 1982 when Carson shortened The Tonight Show from 90 minutes to 60 minutes, eliminating the Tea Time movie sketches that had been Wayne's primary source of income. In January 1985, 3 years after her last Tonight Show appearance, Wayne traveled to the Mexican resort town of Manzanillo with a companion named Edward Durston. According to Durston's statements to authorities, the two had an argument on January 10th. Durston claimed Wayne then left their hotel room to take a beach walk, leaving behind her passport and all possessions, and never returned. 3 days later, local fishermen discovered Wayne's body floating in the shallow waters of Santiago Bay, about 12 miles from her hotel. She was 42 years old. The circumstances immediately raised red flags, explained a true crime researcher. Drowning in calm, shallow water is unusual for a healthy adult. Wayne was reportedly afraid of water and not known to swim in the ocean. Add to this the fact that Durston left Mexico immediately after filing a missing person report before her body was even discovered. The official ruling was accidental drowning, but this conclusion has generated controversy. No thorough autopsy was performed in Mexico, leaving questions about potential intoxication or evidence of struggle. The investigation by Mexican authorities was cursory at best. Adding another layer of mystery is Wayne's connection to Edward Durston. In a disturbing coincidence, Durston had also been present at another mysterious death 11 years earlier. In 1974, he had been with actress Diane Linkletter, daughter of entertainer Art Linkletter, on the day she fell to her death from a 6th-floor window in an apparent suicide. The Durston connection creates one of those coincidences that's difficult to dismiss, noted the true crime expert. The statistical improbability of one individual being present for 2 unusual deaths of entertainment figures has kept suspicion alive for decades. What makes Wayne's death particularly poignant is how thoroughly it contrasted with the vivacious character she portrayed on Carson's show. The woman who had brought laughter to millions with her exaggerated naivete met an end shrouded in circumstances so murky that the truth may never be known.
In the sense that I don't do that much television or movies, because a lot of people assume, well...
2. Bob Crane, Hogan's Hidden Life. When Bob Crane sat across from Johnny Carson in the 1960s and early 1970s, viewers saw a charming, quick-witted star at the height of his fame. As the lead in the improbably successful World War II comedy Hogan's Heroes, Crane projected an all-American wholesomeness combined with just enough roguish charm to make his character's clever scheming against Nazi captors believable. Crane was television's perfect leading man for that era, explained a television historian. He had a remarkable ability to appear simultaneously wholesome and slightly mischievous, trustworthy enough that Middle America embraced him, but with just enough of an edge to seem modern and relevant. What neither Carson nor his audience could have suspected was that behind this carefully maintained public image lurked a private life, so at odds with Crane's clean-cut reputation that its eventual exposure would shock even Hollywood's jaded observers. When Crane was found brutally murdered in a Scottsdale, Arizona apartment on June 29, 1978, the subsequent investigation would reveal a hidden life so sensational it would forever overshadow his professional accomplishments. The Crane investigation unveiled a side of the actor that was completely unknown to the public, noted a crime journalist. Investigators discovered hundreds of photographs and videos documenting Crane's obsessive sexual activities, material showing him with countless women in explicitly compromising positions. Central to both Crane's secret life and the murder investigation was his friendship with John Henry Carpenter, a regional sales manager for Sony who had introduced Crane to early video technology. The two men had reportedly used this technology to record Crane's sexual encounters, creating an extensive library of homemade pornography. On the night of June 28, 1978, Crane performed in a dinner theater production in Phoenix. The next day, he was found bludgeoned to death in his apartment. The murder weapon, never recovered, was believed to be a camera tripod, a grimly appropriate tool given Crane's obsession with photographing his sexual activities. Despite considerable circumstantial evidence pointing to Carpenter, including blood in his rental car matching Crane's rare blood type, the case against him was hampered by primitive forensic technology and a deeply flawed investigation. After years of legal maneuvering, Carpenter was finally brought to trial in 1994, 16 years after the murder. He was acquitted and maintained his innocence until his death in 1998. What makes Crane's case particularly unsettling is how completely his death rewrote his legacy, noted the historian. Before his murder, he was primarily known as the star of a successful sitcom. After his death, he became defined by the lurid details of his secret life and the unsolved nature of his killing. The mystery of who killed Bob Crane has inspired numerous books, documentaries, and even a feature film, 2002's Autofocus. Yet despite all this attention, the fundamental questions remain unanswered, making Crane's death one of Hollywood's most persistent mysteries.
You send me?
Send me, Dick. That was in 57.
Previous to...
3. Sam Cooke, a voice silenced too soon. When Sam Cooke appeared on The Tonight Show on February 7, 1964, he wasn't just another musical guest. He was a revolutionary artist at the height of his powers. That night, Cooke performed "A Change Is Gonna Come," a powerful civil rights anthem inspired by his own experiences with segregation. That Tonight Show performance represented a pivotal moment in American popular music, explained a music historian. Cooke was transitioning from his earlier, more commercial sound to music with deeper social consciousness. The fact that this historic television moment is lost forever, NBC taped over the episode, adds another layer of tragedy to Cooke's story. Just 10 months after this Carson appearance, on December 11, 1964, Cooke's life ended under circumstances so bizarre and contradictory that they continue to generate debate decades later. The official version, that Cooke was justifiably shot by a motel manager after he attacked her, has been questioned by family members, music historians, and civil rights scholars who point to numerous inconsistencies. According to the official account, Cooke checked into the Hacienda Motel with a woman named Elisa Boyer, who then claimed she fled when Cooke became aggressive. Cooke, supposedly thinking Boyer had stolen his clothes, allegedly burst into the manager's office wearing only a jacket and shoes, physically attacked the manager Bertha Franklin, and was shot in self-defense. The investigation into Cooke's death was remarkably brief, observed the crime researcher. The inquest lasted just 30 minutes, with the shooting ruled a justifiable homicide based primarily on Franklin and Boyer's testimony. No significant forensic evidence was presented, and numerous inconsistencies went unexplored. Perhaps the most troubling aspect was the investigation's failure to resolve basic contradictions in the physical evidence. Cook's body showed signs of a severe beating beyond what would have occurred in the brief struggle described by Franklin. Boyer, whose testimony was crucial, was arrested for prostitution just days after the shooting, raising questions about her credibility. Adding another layer of suspicion is the broader context of Cook's career. He had recently founded his own record label and publishing company, giving him unprecedented control at a time when black artists were routinely exploited. He had also become increasingly outspoken about civil rights, challenging segregation at performance venues. When you examine Cook's death in the broader context of the 1960s, the hasty closure of the case becomes even more troubling, concluded the music historian. He was becoming not just a successful entertainer, but a potential agent of significant social and economic change. His Carson appearance showcasing "A Change Is Gonna Come" demonstrated the direction he was moving, toward using his extraordinary talents to challenge the status quo.
He had several. I never saw the movie, so I don't know exactly. And he decided...
4. Natalie Wood, Death on Dark Water. When Natalie Wood sat across from Johnny Carson throughout the 1970s, viewers witnessed Hollywood royalty in her prime. With her luminous dark eyes, distinctive voice, and natural charm, Wood represented a particular kind of enduring star power, someone who had successfully navigated the treacherous transition from child actor to adult leading lady. Wood wasn't just a movie star, she was cinema history personified, explained a film historian. She had grown up on screen, from her heartbreaking performance in Miracle on 34th Street to her teenage rebellion in Rebel Without a Cause to her adult dramatic triumphs. The basic facts of Wood's death are well established, though their interpretation remains contested. On November 28, 1981, Wood was aboard the yacht Splendor off California's Catalina Island with her husband Robert Wagner, actor Christopher Walken, and the boat's captain, Dennis Davern. Sometime during the night, Wood, who was known to fear dark water, somehow ended up in the ocean. Her body was discovered the following morning. The initial investigation concluded that Wood's death was an accidental drowning, explained a legal analyst. The theory was that she had attempted to board the dinghy, perhaps after an argument, slipped, and fell into the water. The fact that she was found wearing a down jacket supported the idea that she hadn't intended to enter the water. This conclusion satisfied official requirements, but questions lingered. Wood's well-documented fear of dark water made it unlikely she would attempt to board a small dinghy alone at night. Witnesses on nearby boats reported hearing a woman crying for help around midnight, suggesting a timeline different from that provided by those aboard the Splendor. In 2011, nearly 30 years after Wood's death, the case was officially reopened based on new information from several sources, including Captain Davern. In his updated statements, Davern claimed that Wagner and Wood had engaged in an intense argument, that he had heard a physical altercation, and that Wagner had delayed the search for his wife. The investigation took another dramatic turn in 2018 when the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department officially named Robert Wagner a person of interest. Investigators cited Wagner's changing accounts and his refusal to speak with investigators since the case was reopened. While this fell short of naming him a suspect, it represented a significant shift in the official perspective. What makes Wood's case so endlessly fascinating is how it combines celebrities, intimate relationships, and fundamental uncertainty, observed a cultural analyst. The night she died, Wood was on a yacht with her husband and a co-star, both major celebrities themselves. The combination of professional and personal relationships, the isolated setting, and the forever contested timeline creates a closed-room mystery where the truth seems simultaneously tantalizingly close and permanently elusive.
Form of questioning, one question at a time, in turn, moving clockwise, and we'll begin.
5. Dorothy Kilgallen, the reporter who knew too much. When Dorothy Kilgallen appeared on The Tonight Show during Carson's early years, she brought a particular kind of journalistic gravitas to his program. As a nationally syndicated columnist, celebrated radio host, and longtime panelist on What's My Line, Kilgallen represented a powerful combination of investigative credibility and celebrity status that few women of her era achieved. Kilgallen wasn't just any journalist. She was one of the most influential media voices in America, explained a media historian. Her Voice of Broadway column was syndicated to over 200 newspapers. When she appeared on Carson's show, it wasn't just as an entertainer, but as a serious journalist whose opinions carried significant weight. By the time Kilgallen was sitting on Carson's couch, she was deep into what would become her final and most controversial investigation, a probe into the assassination of President John F. Kennedy that had left her deeply skeptical of the official narrative. This context makes Kilgallen's sudden death on November 8, 1965, not just tragic, but immediately suspicious. She was found dead in a bedroom she never used, fully dressed in clothes she had worn the previous day, sitting upright with reading glasses on and an open book nearby, a scenario that struck those who knew her as completely inconsistent with her habits. Despite these unusual circumstances, the official cause of death was quickly determined to be a fatal combination of alcohol and barbiturates. This finding satisfied official requirements, but left many questions unanswered. Kilgallen had no history of prescription drug abuse and no apparent reason to consume the specific combination of substances found in her system. What makes Kilgallen's death particularly suspicious is the timing, observed the media historian. She had told multiple friends she was about to blow the lid off the Kennedy case with information from a private interview with Jack Ruby. Yet immediately following her death, her extensive notes on the Kennedy investigation disappeared completely. The disappearance of Kilgallen's Kennedy file represents one of the most troubling aspects of her case. According to those close to her, she had maintained a meticulously organized collection of materials related to her investigation. She kept this file separate from her other work and stored it in a secure location. After her death, this entire file vanished without explanation. Adding another layer to the mystery is the unusual handling of the investigation. Despite the atypical circumstances, no full autopsy was performed. The toxicology samples were subsequently destroyed. Her death certificate contained multiple errors. These procedural anomalies collectively create a pattern that has fueled decades of suspicion. Kilgallen's story represents a particular kind of American tragedy. The death, not just of a person, but of the information they possessed, concluded the media historian. Whatever she discovered about the Kennedy assassination died with her or disappeared with her research files.
In the 60s, it was never trust anyone over 30. In the new music 80s, it's never trust anyone who's alive.
6. Peter Ivers, the new wave visionary silenced. When Peter Ivers appeared on The Tonight Show in the early 1980s, he represented a fascinating bridge between Carson's mainstream television world and the emerging underground music and art scene. As a Harvard-educated musician and host of the cult hit New Wave Theater, Ivers moved comfortably between seemingly incompatible worlds, bringing avant-garde sensibilities to network television. Ivers wasn't just ahead of his time, he was creating new cultural connections, explained a music journalist. On New Wave Theater, he introduced suburban America to bands like Dead Kennedys and Fear at a time when this kind of music was considered dangerous by mainstream standards. This ability to bridge worlds makes the circumstances of Ivers' death on March 3, 1983, particularly shocking. He was found in his Los Angeles apartment, bludgeoned to death with a hammer in a crime of extreme violence. His loft in the Skid Row area showed no signs of forced entry, suggesting he likely knew his killer. The brutality of Ivers' murder stood in stark contrast to who he was as a person, noted a crime researcher. By all accounts, he was gentle and intellectually oriented with no known enemies. The level of violence suggested either a crime of extreme passion or a deliberate attempt to silence him permanently. What has made Ivers' case particularly frustrating was the profoundly mishandled crime scene investigation. When friends discovered his body and called the police, they were shocked by the LAPD's response. Officers made minimal effort to secure evidence, allowed numerous friends to walk through the apartment, and generally treated the case as a low priority despite its unusual brutality. The investigation was catastrophically mismanaged, explained a former detective. Basic protocols were ignored. The crime scene was contaminated. Fingerprints were never properly collected. The prevailing attitude seemed to be that this was just another homicide in a dangerous neighborhood, rather than the targeted killing of a significant cultural figure. In the decades since Ivers' murder, various theories have emerged about potential motives and suspects. Some have suggested connections to the drug scene that overlapped with the punk community. Others have proposed that he may have been targeted by someone who saw him as an outsider. Still others have wondered whether his murder might have been connected to personal relationships or professional rivalries. What makes Ivers' case particularly haunting is the sense that the truth was probably knowable but was lost through sheer investigative incompetence, said the journalist. Unlike some mysteries where the circumstances make a solution inherently elusive, Ivers was killed in his own apartment, likely by someone he knew, in a crime that should have left substantial evidence.
He entered the Dragon, and I came back and I said to Jerry Thorpe, "Have you seen this movie?" And he said, "No." And I said, "You haven't? You got to see."
7. David Carradine, Death in Bangkok. When David Carradine appeared on Johnny Carson's show in the 1970s, he represented a fascinating cultural hybrid, a Hollywood scion who had become a countercultural icon through his role as the half-Chinese Shaolin monk Kwai Chang Caine in Kung Fu. With his distinctive slow speech, philosophical demeanor, and lean physicality, Carradine had created a character that resonated with an America increasingly interested in Eastern philosophy. On Carson's couch, Carradine himself appeared to embody some of these same qualities, speaking thoughtfully about Eastern philosophy and projecting a calm that contrasted with the manic energy of many talk show guests, explained a television historian. This public image of spiritual seeker made the circumstances of Carradine's death on June 3, 2009, particularly jarring. The 72-year-old actor was found dead in the closet of his hotel room in Bangkok, where he was shooting a film. He was found hanging by a rope, with another rope around his genitals, in what was initially described as an accidental death from autoerotic asphyxiation. The initial explanation created an immediate cognitive dissonance for the public, noted a cultural analyst. Here was a man known for playing spiritual seekers, found dead in circumstances that suggested a very different private reality. What transformed Carradine's death from merely tragic to genuinely mysterious were the specific details that emerged during the investigation. Most notably, Carradine was found with his hands bound behind his back, a circumstance that would make self-application of the ropes exceedingly difficult, if not impossible. This detail fueled speculation that his death might not have been accidental, but potentially a homicide disguised to look like an accident. Carradine's family, particularly his brother Keith, initially pushed for a more thorough investigation, suggesting the actor might have been murdered. They pointed not only to the bound hands, but also to Carradine's involvement in exploring criminal activities in Thailand for a potential film project, activities that could have made him enemies. The Thai authorities ultimately ruled Carradine's death accidental, concluding he had died from asphyxiation, and noting that no struggle had taken place in the hotel room. An independent forensic pathologist hired by the family concluded Carradine had not taken his own life, but did not specifically address whether another person might have been involved. What makes Carradine's case particularly difficult to resolve is the combination of unusual physical evidence, a foreign jurisdiction with different investigative standards, and the inherently private nature of what occurred in that hotel room, explained a crime analyst. Without independent access to the evidence, outside investigators have been limited to analyzing secondhand information, making definitive conclusions nearly impossible. The 7 Carson guests we've examined represent a particular kind of Hollywood tragedy, lives that ended not just in death, but in lingering questions that remain unanswered decades later. From Carol Wayne's drowning in Mexico to Dorothy Kilgallen's suspicious overdose, these stories remind us that fame offers no protection against becoming the subject of an enduring mystery. What makes these cases particularly haunting is the contrast between the controlled environment of Carson's stage and the chaotic circumstances of these deaths, observed the television historian. On The Tonight Show, these guests presented their best selves, charming, articulate, in complete command of their public image. Their mysterious deaths shattered that illusion of control. This contrast is perhaps most striking with Natalie Wood and Sam Cooke, whose Carson appearances captured them at the height of their talents and influence, with no hint of the bizarre circumstances that would end their lives. These interviews now function almost like evidence in an ongoing investigation of the public imagination, moments that seem to offer clues but ultimately raise more questions than they answer. Perhaps most disquieting is how these mysterious deaths often reflect the power structures and social dynamics of their respective eras. Wood's death raises questions about domestic violence and accountability for the wealthy. Kilgallen's suggests the potential dangers of investigating government interests. Cook's illustrates the casual dismissal of suspicious deaths involving Black Americans in the 1960s. When we examine these cases as a group, certain patterns emerge, observed a historian. We see how fame can both protect and expose individuals, how investigations involving celebrities often suffer from either excessive scrutiny or insufficient diligence, how certain questions remain unasked when they threaten established narratives. For viewers revisiting these Carson interviews today, there's an unavoidable poignancy in watching these vibrant individuals who have no idea what awaits them, no sense that their lives will become defined not just by their achievements, but by the mysterious circumstances of their deaths. If you found these stories fascinating, please subscribe for more explorations of Hollywood's darkest mysteries. Let us know in the comments which of these cases you find most compelling, and share any theories you might have about these enduring enigmas.